Find the transformations of f of x that are shown by g of x. F of x equals cotangent x, g of x equals 1/3 cotangent pi x. So there are two numbers causing transformations. There's 1/3 and then the pi. So let's take a look. What the 1/3 does is it does a vertical shrink by 1/3. Okay. Now what this pi does, because pi is greater than 1, it's a horizontal shrink by 1/pi. And that's it. So let's get the calculator. So we're going to graph I'm going to graph 1 divided by, I'll put this all in parentheses, 3 tangent of pi x. That's the same thing as 1/3 cotangent of pi x. Let's graph. Now notice here that the period doesn't really seem to be falling on our points. And if you think about it, that's okay, because if you're doing a horizontal stretch or shrink in terms of pi, you're actually going to fall with the integers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my zoom to zoom 6, which is a standard zoom. And the period of the function falls with the integers. Now there's so many of these, it's really hard to tell. I'll change my window. I'm going to go from -2 to 2 for the x's. That gives us a nice zoomed in look here. Well, unfortunately, the zoom made this part look a little weird. But I think you can see over here the period of the function. It actually is 1. Each dot here represents 1 on the x, and there's 1 period in between each. Okay, so that's our horizontal shrink. The period should be 1. Remember with the tangent or cotangent function that pi over b is the period, and b is this number in front of the x. And so for the parent function, you have a 1, so the period is pi over 1, which is pi. In this case, you have a pi there, so the period is pi over pi, which equals 1, and that's what we saw in the graphing calculator. Horizontal shrink by 1/pi.